Ed Boon is the co-creator of the Mortal Kombat franchise. Even he doesn't have many good things to say about Mortal Kombat Special Forces. In an old interview with Game Informer, he said of the title, "Special Forces probably shouldn't have ever been shipped." When the man behind the franchise warns you off a game, you know something's had to have gone terribly, terribly wrong. Today we're going to take a look at one of the worst games on the PlayStation and a blight on one of the most popular gaming franchises of all time. Prepare yourself for Mortal Kombat Special Forces. Special Forces was the second in a proposed series of Mortal Kombat side stories. The first was Mortal Kombat Mythologies. This beat-em-up starring Sub-Zero had issues of its own. Following its release, the same team started work on the next game, which turned out to be Special Forces. The game was going to be 3D, which would address one of the major criticisms of Mythologies. Whereas that game was considered dated for using sprites in a 2D plane, Special Forces was set to be a fully 3D brawler, in the vein of Die Hard Arcade. As you can probably tell by the title, Special Forces was supposed to flesh out the Earthrealm storyline surrounding the Black Dragon clan. In theory, this is a great idea. The storyline for Mortal Kombat has always been interesting to players. This was proven recently by the critical acclaim for the story mode in the latest Mortal Kombat game.
Throw that on your Barbie, shrimp.
This leads us to a large sticking point for Special Forces, and one of the first signs that there must have been some serious problems with the game's development. The game's storyline was supposed to be a vehicle for Jax Briggs and Sonya Blade, the military duo from the mainline titles, and their war against Kano and the Black Dragon clan. In the final version, Jax is present, but Sonya is nowhere to be seen. To add insult to injury, most of the characters in the game had not been seen in previous Mortal Kombat games. This means that the game feels disjointed and weirdly disconnected from the other games in the franchise. There were so many popular characters to choose from that it just seems insane to have gone back to the drawing board. This isn't helped by the fact that the characters that are in the game feel like low quality designs ripped from a bad fanfic. Take Tremor for example. This character is meant to be a lieutenant in Kano's Black Dragon gang. Let's not beat around the bush here. He's a brown clone of Scorpion. The Mortal Kombat franchise has some incredibly memorable character design, so it's amazingly disappointing to see the laziness that went into this area in Special Forces. This lack of flair and design ambition carries over into the rest of the game as well. In fact, to demonstrate this, let's take a look at the first level. Usually when you start a game, you hope to be greeted with an interesting environment or an urgent objective or something. Something has to grab your attention. Then there's Special Forces. After sitting through a boring mission briefing featuring some woeful voice acting, we're treated to this: a drab, grey, low polygon area, and a mission to find some keycards. The first stage is literally a warehouse, with almost identical looking floors and nothing to distinguish it. It looks more like a simple test area for a prototype, not the first level in a finished title. For a franchise known for its bold, bombastic presentation, this game was an incredibly disappointing installment. The obvious issue with the game is that it's just plain dull. The combat is boring and frustrating, with simple combos and awkward hit detection. The stages are lifeless and often feel half-finished. To top it all off, the game has some awful difficulty spikes. The last thing you want after spending an hour trudging through a boring level is to have to start all over again because you died on the boss a couple of times. This whole episode originally started as a playthrough of the game for this channel, but after dying on the first boss a few times, I just threw in the towel. Now, I'm no stranger to action games. I've beaten Devil May Cry. I've beaten Ninja Gaiden, but I couldn't do a thing against the first boss in this game. I just wasn't going to put up with the misery of it all. You win this round, no face. Perhaps the biggest strike against the game is that it simply doesn't feel like a Mortal Kombat game. For all its faults, at least Mythologies had some effort put into this area. The concept was also sound, as they eventually got it right with the sublime Shaolin monks. At first glance, Special Forces looks like a completely separate title which just had the Mortal Kombat name slapped onto it late in development. This is weird, as it was actually the other way around.
The game's troubled development led to huge chunks of the team leaving before the game was actually finished, including John Tobias himself. To get the game out the door, the remaining developers had to strip the game and rush its completion.
This explains the lack of Mortal Kombat characters, such as Sonya. It explains the awkward presentation, the barren level design. It reminds me of how Bruce Campbell described the release of Crime Wave. Special Forces wasn't released. It just escaped.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of The Game Room. Please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and follow us on Twitter. And now I'm going to leave you with the Game Room quote of the week.